This week on Library Beat, Karen and I learn a startling statistic.
20% of Garland County adults are below what's called a level 1, which is roughly a third grade reading level.
We take a field trip. Please ring bell. But we're going to try to see if we can just walk on in here and meet someone who's trying to make a difference.
And Sarah Richardson has just done a tremendous job just kind of transforming it, and you hear about it so much more.
We get lost and then found, and our weekly trivia game coming up on Library Beat. We're in the library's transit vehicle, and Karen is very carefully backing up. Karen, where are we headed today?
The Garland County Literacy Council.
We are very excited. We're going to go meet with Sarah Richardson, the director of the Literacy Council of Garland County.
Did I call it the wrong thing?
Before we left the library, I asked Youth Services Director Tiffany Howe if she would talk to us about her experiences working with the Literacy Council.
When I first came back to Hot Springs, and it was like 2001, before I was looking for a job and kind of trying to figure out what I was going to be and what I was going to do, I volunteered at the Literacy Council because literacy's always been an interest of mine.
Right.
And so that was many, many, many years ago. And I am so proud of the way that it has grown over the years. And Sarah Richardson has just done a tremendous job just kind of transforming it, and you hear about it so much more. And she's out in the community. I guess she just won an award too.
Oh, good.
Recently, yeah. So she's doing great things, and we are lucky enough to get to work with her on lots of different projects.
Right, like
and
our book
our book fest.
Book festival.
Yes. So I love the Literacy Council and what they do for our community.
Before we could visit with Sarah, we had to actually find the Literacy Council. Okay, so we are on Central Avenue. We've made a couple of wrong turns.
Sorry.
But we are going to get there soon. We're now turning on to Hobson,
The correct street.
and we will be there in no time. If you aren't sure where the Literacy Council of Garland County is, it is on Hobson Avenue. And we're almost there, so I could probably tell you the address once we get a little closer. It is 119 Hobson Avenue, and they have a big sign up in their front yard just waiting for us. We have found the Literacy Council of Garland County, and we've got a little free library right out front of it. Yeah, one of our future episodes, we're planning to take a tour of the little free libraries and talk to Cheryl Lewis, who stocks a lot of them for the library. Yeah. Front door, hours Monday and Tuesday 8 to 4, Wednesday and Thursday 8 to 1:30. Other hours available by appointment. Please ring bell. But we're going to try to see if we can just walk on in here.
I think we're supposed to ring the bell.
Oh, sorry. Too late. All right, welcome. Please sign in. We're going to sign into the guest registry. Karen, will you sign for me since I'm holding our recorder? Thank you. All right, there's some actual tutoring going on right now. We walked into the middle of a tutoring session, so we're going to try to be quiet so we don't disturb them. We're waiting for Sarah, the director. Karen and I basically barged in and made ourselves at home. Meanwhile, Karen was texting back and forth with Sarah, and it turns out we were in the middle of a classic sitcom misunderstanding. Sarah thought we were meeting at the library, and we thought we were meeting at the Literacy Council. So we had a few minutes to kill, and soon Sarah joined us.
If only that was the worst word I said.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we are at the Literacy Council of Garland County, and we are talking to Sarah Richardson. Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure, I'm Sarah Richardson. I'm the executive director here at the Literacy Council of Garland County. I'm also the state tutor training director for literacy councils in Arkansas.
Wow, that sounds like a very busy job.
Yes.
Busy, 2 jobs, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you for inviting us over here today. I've been a couple of times. I know I've been to a community coffee here before, and I've also been, I think, just to visit. Karen, have you ever been here before?
Yes, we came over here for something not too long ago.
Yeah.
Maybe community coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're having a yard sale.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, somebody was donating stuff to the library party-wise. There were some party favors or something left over, and y'all graciously donated to the library.
Oh, from the yard sale, yeah.
Yes.
You graciously took them away.
Yes.
Well, for people who don't know, what do y'all do here?
So we work with adults. We teach adults how to read, write, math, English as a second language, computer skills, some health and financial literacy. So basically, if you think of anything education-wise that an adult might need before they go work on their GED, or perhaps they got a high school diploma and just missed some skills or want to brush up on some skills, that's us.
And it's all completely free?
It's completely free and confidential. We typically work with one-on-one tutors who are typically volunteers, or small groups. We do have some small group classes as well.
Excellent. As we walked in, there were some people working, so it was very nice to see it in action.
Yes, in action.
I know that in the past, y'all have met at the library, or some tutors have used some of our
Yes.
space. I asked Paul about it the other day. He said he didn't think any of the tutors were working at the library at this time.
Right. I think there's one pair that meets over there sometimes. They don't always meet there. Our rule is that tutors and students can't meet in private space, so like a dorm room or an
right.
apartment. So a lot of them meet here. We also have on-site classes at child care centers for parents after they drop their kids off. We have one tutor and student who are meeting at, he's in like a nursing care facility post-stroke. And so they're meeting in the a little enclave there, as long as you're in a public space. So the library was a common place, I think, before the pandemic, and then people got out of the habit.
Right.
I'd like to start some things back up over there now
Yeah,
that
send-
the world's back in swing.
Send some people our way for sure. The meeting rooms stay very busy, but we can always find a
Yeah.
spot for
We'll
y'all.
make room for you.
Yes.
And we do have a tutor, especially, who it's kind of one of her crowns in her jewels in her crown to go get a library card for some folks. She loves to talk them into going and getting a library card. So she's brought, I don't know, probably at this point between 5 and 8. I don't always keep track of it super well in my head because, especially with people who are new to our country, going and getting a library card can be a little intimidating. And so she kind of builds them up and talks them into it.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great to hear. Yes, bring them all on. Bring them.
One of your tutors brought in one of her students maybe a few months ago, and the lady, I believe, was from Chile. And she came in to get her library card. She was very excited, and we were excited to be able to help her. So it is sort of part of the welcome wagon experience. So yeah, bring them.
Get a library card, yeah.
Bring them on.
And, I say this every time I get a chance to talk about the library, but you guys do such a great job of being inclusive of people, not just around books, but, I mean, my gosh, cake pans and fishing poles. And
Yes.
I just think libraries are such a hub of culture that I think it's great that you don't have to be a big reader, whether it's because it's hard for you or because it's just not your thing. You can go engage with the library. You don't have to be
Yes.
left out of that sort of really beautiful part of our culture. I think that we have that. Access
Yes,
to that.
audiobooks are great. If you have trouble reading, I like to listen to the audiobooks, and we have so many there and so many different ways to listen. We have
Yeah.
actual compact disc you can download to your phone. So audiobooks are a great thing too.
I agree. And I'm an excellent reader, and I still listen to a lot of audiobooks just because
I do too.
I can do other things, or,
Right,
I'm
exactly.
driving and I can still,
Exactly. Yes.
so.
Are there any misconceptions about literacy that you might want to address?
Oh, wow. You said we just had a few minutes. So one of the big things that I feel like is a misconception is that it's not that prevalent of a problem. About 20% of Garland County adults are below what's called a level 1, which is roughly a 3rd grade reading level, which means, that I think there's this misconception that the people we serve read nothing. They can't identify letters or anything, and that's rarely the case. That's extremely unusual. Most of the adults we serve have some reading skill. It's just not sufficient for what they want to accomplish. And so, if you think about 20%, that's 1 out of every 5. I have so many people who tell me I never met somebody who can't read, and statistically, that's impossible.
And you probably wouldn't know.
Right. They're great at covering it up. I have a whole presentation about kind of how to find signs and connect people to our services in a way that doesn't offend or embarrass. But I also think if you take on the next chunk of ability level, which is below what's called a level 2, which is roughly 8th grade to 9th grade ability level, there's an additional 23% at that level of reading. And so that encompasses the levels of reading we cover. And so I think that there's a bigger literacy problem amongst adults than we recognize. And then if you add on the math skills we teach, the numbers are even bigger. The rates are even higher. So I think it's a kind of unnoticed problem in our community, and it affects every facet of anything that ails us. So improving somebody's literacy can improve just about any other crisis they're facing. The other thing I would say that might surprise people is how long it takes to get an adult to where they want to be. Sometimes it's really fast. That's kind of shocking because one of the quickest things we help people accomplish is pass the written part of their driver's test, because you can focus in on specific vocabulary and things. So, it may just take a few lessons or a couple months. But we have adults who really want to get to an extremely proficient literacy level who might have diagnosed or undiagnosed dyslexia, or we've worked with a couple of folks who had strokes or brain injuries, and it's unpredictable how fast those adults will gain what they want to gain. And so sometimes you're in it kind of for the long haul to get them where they want to go. So
is there anything you would like to say to parents out there of young children, maybe who are struggling with reading, and maybe is there help for them so that they don't become an adult
Right.
who has these sorts of problems?
So I spent 14 years in K-12 public ed. So my first point from the chair I'm in today is address your own reading struggles. The number one predictor of a child's reading success is the reading level of their mother. It outweighs even domestic violence as a statistic on the impact on a child's reading level, the quality of their school, all of it. So sometimes as a parent, we have to kind of lead the way. And so you don't have to say, make a whole week of it and come 6 hours a week. It's an hour a week commitment roughly. I would also recommend that you communicate with the school about what your kid's struggling with and convey to them that you're not the best resource maybe, or what you are or are not able to help with. So if reading is difficult for you, making it clear that you're going to need their help with some tutoring or some direction on how to support the child is really important. Because there are a lot of resources within the school, but parents have to advocate for that. And it's unfortunate that we face that even as a nation and a state, but we do. So.
Right. Are you looking for volunteers?
We are always looking for volunteers. We have a new volunteer orientation coming up February 22nd at noon, and you can just contact the office to find out how to sign up about that. I will tell you, we have this strange perk right now of having more tutors than students. I don't expect that to last,
Right.
but it does mean you might be waiting a little bit for a student. But we rely on volunteers for pretty much everything from filing to lawn maintenance to fundraising. So I tell people all the time, if a business needs it, we need it, and we don't have the money to pay for it. And so if you have a skill set that you think, well, I'm not cut out for tutoring, okay, but you probably can do something if you're interested in being involved over here in some way. So
You mentioned fundraising. How are you funded?
So about a third of our money, at the way the budget stands now, comes from a state line item in the budget that gets dispersed through our oversight agency. That's called the GAC, the Grants and Aid to Councils. And in fact, there's work being done in the legislature to increase that line item in the budget. It's kind of all tossed up in all this political change we're experiencing right now, but we're looking forward to seeing that increase because it hasn't been touched since 2002 when it was cut further back to $650,000 or $675 that gets distributed to all of us and has to run our oversight agency. So. And then an additional, probably 1/3 right now comes from local grants, the Community Foundation, the Wagner Foundation is a local one, the Dollar General Foundation, and the Giving Circle, we've got a lot of great support groups like that. I will say, speaking to the Dollar General Foundation, I listened to a presentation from them. You know, when you go and check out at Dollar General, there's a little tiny box where you can make a donation. And part of their grant decision process is that money needs to funnel back to where it came from. So if you're in an area where they collect a lot of donations for literacy, which is what it says, literacy in that box, the money is more likely to come back to us. And that has been true for us. I came on in 2003, and since I came on over the course of 3 years, they've granted us nearly $20,000. So that has turned out to be true. So if you're in front of that little box wondering where the money goes, it goes back here to Garland County. And then the rest is fundraisers. We're having a Read Between the Wines next week. Biddy Martin's going to share about her book.
Excellent.
And she's bringing a surprise guest who has new information.
Ooh.
Never before heard, I guess, or is the way you would say it. She's going to share. And so she's going to bring, it's Ruth Ward, which is one of the victim's sisters.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, she's coming. And so we're going to have wine, and you can win a bottle of wine, and you can silent auction. And
I think this podcast will actually come out after that has already
Oh, no.
happened. So
Well, we'll do it
that's
again next
unfortunate.
year.
Yes, that sounds like a fun event. If I think we just mentioned Biddy Martin, we were referring to her books, Snake Eyes, which
Yeah.
was a big hit.
We're going to do our rubber duck race again in June. So, follow
And
us
do
on
we
Facebook.
need to get James to come and judge again?
I'm going to get him on
James.
a more broad spectrum of judges, not just James. But we're also going to do it up big. Well,
James messed up.
No, he did great. It was just like a poor guy was all on him.
I didn't know he was the only judge.
Yeah, he was the
Okay.
only person I got signed up in time. But we're going to do it up bigger. We're going to have games for the kids and live music and all kinds of fun, not just watching the duck race. So it'll be a great event on June 10th. And then we've set up something recently where you can do ongoing giving, just $25 a month. That's roughly the materials for one student to get started if they just need one student material. If they need the whole packet, it's $50 to get them started. But you can do that I actually think the link's, I just got it set up, so I don't think the link is even on the webpage, but I'll get it up there this week.
But if people are interested in finding out more about what you do here, they can go to your website.
Yes,
What's the address?
literacycouncilgarlandcounty.org.
Excellent.
And then you can call us here. This phone number has been around a long time. You used to would have told people it was 501-64-READ.
Okay.
But nobody does that anymore, so it's 7323. But
Well, I like the 624 read. That's the one that I would call for sure.
right. I mean, nobody looks at those anymore, right? The little letters.
It was always hard for me. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
It took me forever to do if it was like that.
I think we're showing our age, though, that we
I was like, what?
young people are like, what are you talking about? So, and we're planning some projects coming up in the next year, focused on some family literacy and some things like that. We're going to be involved with the Book Fest coming up, and then hopefully bringing back Garland County Reads. That's kind of in the works.
Yes.
So I'm really excited about those things because I think part of the obstacle we have is creating a culture that values literacy. I use the example, if you go to Fayetteville, you can see that they value the arts. If you go to Memphis, you can see they value music. I would just love for us to be a community that you can see we value literacy, we value reading and books. And so I think those kind of projects seem unrelated to our mission, but I see them as just part of the promoting the heart of literacy. We have a great library. We have the Dolly Parton Imagination folks are great. The Rotarians here locally support literacy. If you talk to any business owner, they're pretty gung-ho about supporting literacy projects. So now it's just getting the general public is excited.
Well, hopefully a few of them will listen to this and get some more information.
Sure thing.
Karen, is there anything else we need to ask?
Well, I want to know, what steps do you have to take to be a volunteer?
So for now, the first step is an orientation. We do the orientation. I get to know you a little bit and then kind of plug you in where you need to be. Then how much training you need to tutor varies. So a lot of our retired teachers don't really require a lot of training. Other folks maybe some more training. and that's all available for free. Right now, it's kind of clunky online items, but we're hoping to improve that. And there is a nationwide effort. The Barbara Bush Foundation, which focuses on literacy, put out a report of what it would take to change, especially adult literacy, but literacy in general. And a committee was formed, a national committee, to make that actionable, because that was just a research output that, it's great ideas, but if nobody does it, it doesn't amount to anything. So the foundation created a committee, and one of the things they're working on creating is a tutor certification process, which is why we've held off on creating anything, because it looks like there's going to be something out there that tutors could use, which I'm pretty excited about. Yes. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, Sarah, I think you've answered all of our questions. Is there anything we haven't asked that you would like to get the word out about?
Not really at this time. I do think there is a need for more youth literacy programs. We're just not equipped to do that right now, and particularly for youth who struggle with literacy, because that's what I came from, was K-12 ed. I always want to do it, but it's kind of outside of our scope right now.
Sounds like you have your hands full too.
Yeah, yes, I have my hands full. We've grown a lot since I came on board. They served 19 the year before, according to the system. And we wrapped up, our year runs July to June, so last June with 146.
Oh my gosh.
So, so we've had a lot of growth, but when you take 20% of adults, we've got a lot to hit there. And so I would love to see more groups serving the struggling readers in our children's population.
We have talked about a program at the library. Years ago, my daughter was in a program that they would bring pets in or dogs in, and she would read to the dog. That kind of went away, COVID and whatnot. And we had talked about like teenagers coming in, maybe having a stuffed animal or something, and the struggling readers read to them instead of an intimidating adult.
Right, yeah.
And you don't even have to be a struggling reader,
right.
But just something where the kid or the children would feel comfortable instead of, you're in front of a teacher and
right.
trying to learn how to read. It would be a more comfortable setting for them.
Right. And it's really expensive to get an intervention if you're a parent of a child with a struggling reading struggle. And I think the people are very critical of the schools, but having been there, the schools are really trying, but the need is great. And I know, especially if you're a working parent, you don't have time to do some of those reinforcing activities. And I would just love to see, more of those kind of free programs pop up.
But I think that even as a baby, if you get the child has the board books, if they just see the pictures and the words and just turn the page, just anything to start. So you don't have to be, a proficient reader as an adult to get your child. Just turn those pages.
Even just talking vocabulary, talking to kids, the number of words they hear. And I used to tell when I was teaching, one of the easiest ways to promote a little literacy in your kid's life is to turn on the closed captions on the TV, because it's fluent reading, the words are there. And, I'm not proposing that kids watch a ton of TV, but they're going to watch some TV. Right. So turn on the closed caption, and it's at least one model of fluent reading. And so,
that's a great idea.
It's free and it's easy while you make dinner, or you have to deal with another kid's homework or whatever. So just it's one button, turn it on.
One button.
That's great.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much. You've been an excellent guest. Thank you for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Well, Karen, I think we had a really good and informative field trip over to the Literacy Council today. I think there's one thing that we've forgotten to do.
We forgot to ask about our trivia, but here is the trivia question for today. There is a popular children's author / cartoonist that was diagnosed with dyslexia as a child, and he grew up to write this fabulous children's series that has to do with underwear.
Ooh, underwear.
So if you can name that person and be the first person to name that person, you'll get a fabulous swag bag.
Okay, so if our listeners know the answer to this question, how do they submit their entry?
Well, they are going to email gcl@gclibrary.com, Put Library Beat in the subject line, and if you're the first person to respond, you get that swag bag.
All right. Well, I'm sure there'll be one lucky person out there. Again, we're looking for the author of a best-selling, super popular children's book series that has something to do with underwear, and the author of it overcame dyslexia to become a world-renowned author. And that person's name is what we're looking for. Thank you to Tiffany Howe and Sarah Richardson for taking the time to chat with us. And thank you for listening to Library Beat from the Garland County Library.